Okay, did that work? It's happening again. Technical difficulties, everybody. I think here we go. We're live. This is my first episode. This is the first episode of the Library of American Comics TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Kurtis Findlay. I do some work with Dean and the crew at the Library of American Comics, doing some editing, doing some restoration, doing some social media stuff like this. We have a great idea of doing weekly live streams where we talk about our books, talk about old comic strips, and see, what we can share with you guys and give you some previews or whatever. And I think this is going to be very, very exciting. So I'm flying solo this week, but in the coming weeks, we're going to have some special guests. We'll have Dean on the show to talk to you guys, to answer some questions. And maybe I can even talk to some of you fans. You can come on the show and we can talk about this kind of stuff together. I think that would be very, very exciting. So what we're going to do today is talk about Steve Canyon. We just released this book here, Steve Canyon, Volume 11. It's covering a period of Steve Canyon from 1967 to 1968. And I think this is going to be very, very fun. Let me see here. I get control of all of this stuff behind the scenes. I can throw up a little banner here to tell you. Steve Canyon, Volume 11. I'm also here to talk to you guys, answer some questions, or to listen to your comments and feedback. So if you want to leave a comment down below, if you're watching on YouTube, no, I guess it's off to the side on YouTube or on Facebook, then I will be able to see your comments here, and I can even highlight them, like this one from Bill. He says, very happy with the earlier Steve Canyon volumes. Glad to hear that, Bill. I hope that you are able to check out the later Steve Canyon volumes as well, because they are exciting too. There's some good stuff in here, especially this volume. I do want to talk a little bit about this one. This came out just a few weeks ago. It's big and fat. Let me tell you how many pages are in here. Let's see, the last numbered page is 331. Nice, thick paper stock. The Sundays are in color and the dailies are in black and white. You can see on the spine here, we got Steve himself right there on the spine. 1960, full years of 1967 to 1968. Oh, Bill wants to make a correction. He means all 10. Bill has been a great supporter of this series. I hope you're going to pick up Volume 11 as well. One of the questions that people have been asking, if you've noticed, we have a letter in the corner of the spine here, and all of the volumes so far have now fully spelled out Steve Canyon. If you have all 11 volumes in a row, it says Steve Canyon. So people are wondering, well, what's going to happen in the next volume? What's the letter going to be, or what's going to happen? And I don't have an answer because I don't know. Dean hasn't told me. He's keeping that a secret. So we'll talk a little bit more about the next volume toward the end of our live stream once we get through talking about this book here. Steve is with us today here. He says, mine is still in the mail. I hope you get that soon, Steve, because I think you'll really, really enjoy it. Now, I've got a second camera going here. So I'm going to turn on the second camera so we can take a look here at the book. Feel free to leave some comments and let me know if there's anything particular you want me to take a look at. I'm happy to flip through whatever you want to see here. So we'll start with the cover. Nice composite drawing, continuing the kind of the postage stamp theme that we have here. And this volume is subtitled Behind Enemy Lines. Steve goes into communist China in this volume and has quite a thrilling adventure there. Oh, we'll look at the back cover as well. The back cover features one of our Sundays. Has a nice quote from Gordon Flagg of Booklist. More than 700 comics, it says. Whoops, 700. You can see the cover price there. 50 in the US, 65 in Canada. We do thank you. These are, not the cheapest books in the world, but we thank everybody, all of our supporters, for bringing our series to volume 11. It's quite an endeavor, that's for sure. Bob is here. He says, mine arrived this week. I really love the format of these books, and the content is first rate too. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. The format is fantastic. I love it too. It's just such a great, thick book. It's nice and hefty. Feels like it's made to last. Let's take off the dust jacket and see what it looks like underneath here. It's got this really nice kind of copper finish to it. The spine looks exactly the same on the inside as it does on the outside. It's a paper covering, not a cloth covering. And then the end papers. Move the dust jacket out of the way. Oh, our friend Jem says, howdy from Perth, Australia. The LOAC podcast lives on in some form. Yes. Will this YouTube series replace the podcast? Actually, I am going to sort of amalgamate both of them. The audio from certain episodes of our live stream will appear as the podcast, and then we'll see where the future of the podcast lies. I just got to free up my schedule to do more of that kind of stuff here. So the end papers here, this is a great panel. I will not again appear in a film except fully clothed. There is definitely a plot in the second half of this book revolving around that that you will want to check out. Steve Canyon. We've got some great additional artwork throughout the pages here. We have our credits, of course, and we thank again everybody who works at the Milton Caniff Collection at the Ohio State University and Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum, where we get all of the materials to reprint all of these Sundays and dailies. So, as with all of these volumes, we have an introduction from Bruce Canwell, and Bruce Canwell, Associate Editor for Library of American Comics. And he's writing here about what's going on culturally in the United States in the 60s, in the late 60s. Of course, this is the Vietnam era. Let's see. There's a quote that I want to read here because I think it really shows exactly what Bruce is going for in his introduction here, as well as what's going on with Steve Canyon in general. It says right here, a quote from Milton Caniff himself. He says, "We've taken a beating. We've taken a beating from television. If you don't have a long background of pre-existence, you take a hell of a beating. Gag strips have come full cycle back into their own," and he's referring to adventure strips specifically like his. They've taken a beating from television because that's a growing medium. And gag strips, like Peanuts and Hagar the Horrible, not Hagar, that I don't think that had come out quite yet, but Wizard of Id and all that kind of stuff, they starting to take some more prominence on the comic page. And then it says here, let's see, where is it? Caniff always viewed himself as a newspaperman. He labored to meet the whims of the editors who were his first-line customers. But compared to the salad days of the 1930s and 40s, the general state of the industry in the swinging 60s was definitely no cause for celebration. The specific state of his own title also presented a second, more immediate problem: how to keep a series about an Air Force colonel relevant in the face of America's commitment to the increasingly unpopular conflict in Vietnam. And so this whole introduction, which is, I don't know, about 10 pages or so, goes into the conflict itself and kind of the political turmoil that the country was in, and where Caniff was, where he stood in all of that too, his own sort of political leanings, what were they, and here's a great model sheet of Poteet, and how did he tackle that in his strip, in the storytelling. There are large periods of this volume where Steve isn't even in the strip itself. It focuses more on Poteet and her journalism and all that kind of stuff. Okay, some more comments here. Let's see. Matt says, another beautiful job. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. And Jeffrey here is saying, congratulations on reaching the halfway point of the Steve Canyon strip. Halfway, yeah. Can you imagine? I don't think that anybody has gone this far in their previous reprint strips. Anyway, so we get a cast of characters, so that everybody can kind of get up to speed on who are the familiar faces. Bitsy Beekman is a character that is new to this volume, I believe, and plays a very big role with her relationship with Petite as they go kind of on adventures themselves. Here is a comment that I want to put here. Matt says, I recommend reading the strips before Bruce's essays. And that is kind of, it can be the case with most of these volumes. The introductions do give away some of the big plot points in the series. And so maybe if you want to come at it, like experience the strips without getting some of those details, might be a good idea to save it for last. But I read it first, and I think it was helpful just because, my history of US politics, I'm Canadian, the history of US politics in the 60s is not as great as some of yours, so I found it helpful to have that framing. Here's the first few pages. We get an interracial kiss that's like 1 year before the famous Kirk Uhura kiss in Star Trek. I love the color palette that Milton Caniff uses. He sticks to his very earthy tones of greens and yellows and browns. And his use of shadows is fantastic as well. Just check out the winter scene, beautifully laid out so you can see the helicopters against this portion of the snowy mountain, and it's cross-hatching to show the wind blowing. It's got some great ink work. And it's like so detailed, but still clear as to what you're looking at. This bridge down in the distance here, really cool. Yeah, a lot of this story takes place in communist China. Again, leave me some comments if there's any particular thing you want to see in this book. If you've been on any of my live streams in the past, which were a couple of years ago, I think at this point, I always like to go to my own birthday strip to see what was, of course, I wasn't alive in 1967, but let's see what Steve was up to on April the 27th, 1967. Pa, that Bitsy bug won't go away. I'll tell those gypsies this is a private landing strip. That's why I got no radio. Pa, another drop from the bug. How would you like your name spelled in the radio story we are broadcasting on how you were responsible for the crashing of two beautiful girl flyers? So, you kind of have to read these in context to fully understand. Here's a cool strip that Steve likes to kind of give a lot of history lessons and stuff like that. So we get a little bit of a history here. And I'll, cool with the no frames around some of these panels. There's a great one later in 1968 that I'm going to share with you as well. That kind of really plays with the format. All of our strips are scanned from proof sheets that we get from the Milton Caniff files. So we get really nice clean lines through everything here. Clarity. We haven't recolored these, we've just restored the color on the scans. But everything is nice and clear. The standard layout of 6 dailies per panel. Let's skip ahead. There's a great story here where Petite gets involved in a drug smuggling ring, and her new friend Bitsy gets very involved in fact, gets in really, really big trouble. So they have to kind of go save her. There's a story a little bit later on where Steve goes undercover as a Nazi and then gets amnesia. And that's hopefully not a spoiler for you guys because it says so right in the solicit information that happens. So okay, Bill says, the one thing I love about Steve Canyon is the cinematic quality to both the storytelling and the art. It's like the ultimate international action adventure film. Yeah, great comment. Yeah, his storytelling is great. It takes a very special person to be able to do a one of these adventure serials where you only get 3 panels every single day, but he keeps the action moving. He keeps the character development happening every single day, all throughout. And it was like that if you've read Terry and the Pirates as well. Steve Canyon kind of just keeps on going. A lot of this focuses on Poteet. She takes center stage in a lot of this volume. She's almost more, in fact, I think she probably is more prevalent in this volume than Steve himself. But yeah, let's keep on going over here. Where's that strip that I wanted to show you? Oh, I passed the other April 27. Bear with me as I look at my birthday strip for 1968. Mr. Hogan, is Dr. Payne okay? I think so, Captain. She's tired after her war. Anna, let's go to the barn. You're always ahead with the big box. No, Dr. Hogan. I have one more important circuit. There she is right there. You've gone through the typed list of inputs, but there is one which I did not submit to the Air Force Logistics Command. What does that mean? I just love this color palette. Like I mentioned this before, but just check out all of these, dark purples and maroons. They really add a lot to the offset of the yellow color here and the dark greens of their uniforms. Love it. Yeah, we get a bunch of new characters throughout this volume here. Okay, I think it's in July here. Or June. Where's that strip that I wanted to show you? Because it's very cool. Aha, this one right here. If any other comic, like newspaper, wanted to print Steve Canyon in a different layout, this kind of strip makes it very, very difficult. And this one is a collage of a whole bunch of Steves from the past, or Steve's memories. This is the moment where he wakes up and doesn't remember who he is, but it's a very cool panel. Okay, William says, please release your books on Comixology. I'm out of shelf space and it would be nice to bring volumes along when traveling. The hardbacks are too heavy to transport. Digital might be an option to continue some of the less popular series, such as Kingaroo. That's a great comment, William. There are, we do have some of them as digital books. Like For Better, For Worse, and Bloom County, you can get a digital on Comixology and such, but not all of our contracts allow for the digital comics, and so that's just kind of the way it is. It would be great. I would love it if we could show off all of our books in a digital format. That would be fantastic. Maybe in the future, something we can work towards. But I do agree, I can't take these with me on trips, on vacations. They add too much to my suitcase weight when I fly, so I gotta leave them at home. But yeah, looking to the future, maybe that would be a good option, especially for ones like Red Berry, We did 1 volume out of 2, but the first one didn't sell well enough. But maybe as a digital option where we don't have to spring for the actual printing costs might be better. But there's still a lot of labor involved in that one that we have to pay for. So here's a Christmas. He always does cool Christmas strips as well. I like when Milt Kenneth does. Here's a Christmas one right here. He always does something very unique. Okay. Bill says, do you know if the ultimate goal is to reprint the entire run of Steve Canyon up through the strip's end in 1988? Bill, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Matt says, never leave home without Steve Canyon. Well, like we said, these books are a little too heavy. Kind of have to stay at home. Okay, if there's anything else you want to see, then let me know. Otherwise, here is a look at all of the books we've published so far, all 11 volumes. And we have a little blurb about what's happening in the next volume. In our landmark 12th volume, Milton Caniff maneuvers his characters through the end of the tumultuous 60s into a brand new decade. Yeah, we're one more volume to wrap up the 1960s. Can you believe that? More end papers. Okay, so we wanted to talk about, here, let me take off this camera here. We wanted to talk about the rest of Steve Canyon. What's going to happen with the rest of these series? Are we committed to publishing all of these volumes? Well, that's a hard call. Steve Canyon has always been one of those books where it's kind of like we'll have to see how it sells before we publish the next volume. And so fortunately for us, they have sold enough that IDW says, yeah, let's do another one. So as long as we keep doing that, we could be safe. But that's up to you guys to help us out. Keep on purchasing these volumes to keep Steve Canyon running. Dean is talking about volume 12. So I think we are, he put the next issue blurb in this volume. So I think we can look forward to that one. But after that, we have to keep on seeing how things go. That's kind of just the reality of publishing in general. In fact, I kind of wish that we didn't put terms like the complete at the beginning of the series, because it's like as soon as we stop, everybody's like, thought this was going to be the complete one. But yeah, that's the state of things. Okay, so that's, I hope that answers your question, Bill, and the people who are wondering about the future. This is the halfway point for Steve Canyon, so if we can get through the entire thing, that'd be fantastic. But like I said, really depends on how if these books continue to sell. And the continuing rising costs of things like paper and shipping and fuel and all that kind of stuff means that things just get more expensive to produce, and we don't really want to raise the cover price higher than it already is. But so we do what we can. But the paper quality of this is still the same. If you're using the same really, really nice, thick, you can't see through to the other side of the paper. Great stuff. But who knows if we can keep up this quality and keep our price point the same. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so in the future episodes of LOAC-TV are going to include next week a special guest, Paul Toomey. Now, Paul Toomey is a guy who I've talked to in the past for our podcast, and he recently did a book with us called Screwball. And so we're going to talk with him about Screwball comics. And he also wrote the introduction to the Bungle family. So we're going to be talking about these two books, Bungle Family and Screwball. And I asked him to bring some really cool artifacts that he used in creating those books. So we're going to share those with you on screen so you can see kind of the cool newspaper clippings or weird things that he's come across while putting together that Screwball book. Okay, I got another comment from Bill here. He says, I was surprised how much I enjoy the later early 70s Dick Tracy reprints. I didn't subscribe to the newspaper in the late 70s and early 80s, so that period of Steve Canyon is not familiar to me. You can count on me to buy this volume 11 and to ensure volume 12. We do appreciate you're doing hard copies in this day and age. Yeah, thank you. I'll pass that comment along to Dean because it it is hard work to get these out. Sometimes it is quite a challenge. Christian says, congrats to the whole team. Thank you. And another comment from Jem says, has there been any retroactive review of print sales to justify resurrecting printing of remainders of LOAC series not completed, or print the remaining volumes of LOAC series not completed? Has questions that are probably more suited for Dean. And so when he is on our show in a couple of weeks, maybe we can talk to him about that. But I can say that we are exploring other options right now. We're in a phase right now with where publishing is going through kind of changes in general. So we are looking at what are other options. Can we do only digital? Can we do print on demand? Should we go with thinner size paperback books? All of this kind of stuff. What are our options for publishing these comic strips so that we can keep on bringing this cool content to you guys? The future may not look like these big fat hardcover books anymore. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We're going to have to take it by kind of a case-by-case situation. Yeah. Well, unless there's any other questions or comments, I think that's it for our live stream today. Next week, I think will be a little bit longer. We're clocking in at just a half an hour for this episode, but I think we'll have a great conversation with Paul. He's a very interesting and funny guy. You'll enjoy learning about these old comic strips, and some of them maybe you haven't even heard of before, and looking at the past and the way humor comic strips worked in the turn of the century. Thanks everybody for tuning into this. You saw my theme song at the beginning. I'm going to try playing it at the end here to see if we can sign off with this cool little theme song. So see you later, everybody.